quickly going to go through the things that's important to remember when we are getting to costs. They can literally ask you to calculate any cost per unit. Now when I write per unit, I write it like this. This would be total fixed cost per unit. You see, just slash U. The slash U makes it per unit, meaning you divide it by the units produced. Don't get confused. Remember, we're doing manufacturing, so you're working with units produced. The only time you will divide by units sold is if I want the selling price per unit. The rest of the time you always use the produced. And then I explained to you the fixed cost is your factory overhead and admin. The fixed cost can change. The word fixed cost doesn't mean the price can't change. What it means is the price is not linked to the units. So the units does not determine the price. Okay, you're fine with that. Whereas with the variable cost, the units determine the cost. Because with every unit, I have a certain amount of cost going with it. Okay. Then I explained to you the break-even point is that point where we break even. And for those who don't know the term break-even, it just means that that's the point where we don't make a profit or a loss. Okay? So what I do is I say, okay, if I take my selling price per unit less the variable cost per unit, I get what I call a contribution. So that contribution for the first items that I'm selling will contribute to covering my fixed cost. So if the fixed cost is 200 Rand and I have a contribution of 20, it means I need to produce 10 t-shirts just to break even, meaning covering my fixed cost. So when I produce t-shirt 11, I will make that 20 Rand no longer goes to cover the fixed cost. That 20 Rand is now a profit. And that's my break-even point calculation. So, yes. What? I said a lot of things. So break-even point is about basically how many units do I need to sell to cover my fixed cost. Okay? So if you look at the ratio here, you look at the formula, you'll see at the top I put my total fixed cost. At the bottom I put my selling price per unit less my variable cost per unit, because remember I told you the difference between those two is the contribution. So actually I want to see how many contributions do I need to cover the 200 Rand. Okay? So my contribution is 20, so I'm going to need 10 contributions to cover the 200 Rand fixed cost. Then it means the next one that I'm selling, that contribution goes into the pockets. It's a profit. Does that make sense? Okay. So now if you look on page 6, you'll see there is another example. I want to ask you, let's go back to this one because we've got a number there. Do you think it's better or worse for your break-even point to increase or to decrease? Would you want your units that you need to break even to be more or less? Less. So in other words, if this goes down to 7 units, then I'm very happy because now it means I break even sooner, which means I start to show a profit quicker. Okay. Now I'm asking you, yes.
So that's why companies like ingredients that are like cheaper, so that they.
Yes, that's one of the things. Because if I look at this, the main thing that you want to change is this. So obviously, the obvious thing would be to make your selling price higher. Because if your selling price is higher, your contribution would be higher. Which means the bottom, what do you call it, a numerator would be bigger, meaning your answer would be smaller. Okay? The other one would be to make your variable costs lower. And what's your variable cost? We said material, labor, sales and distribution. So that's why we have cheaper material. Ne? That's why we want workers to be more productive. Because if a worker is more productive, the labor cost per unit is going to go down. I just want to explain to you how labor cost per unit works. Okay, so say Bibi works in my factory. My factory, we knit jerseys. I pay Bibi 100 Rand a day. That's her wage. So in the day she knits. End of the day she finishes one jersey. What is the labor cost per unit for one jersey? 100 Rand. So now I send Bibi for training, where they teach her to be more effective and how to use 4 needles and whatever. Ne? So when she comes back, she now knits 2 jerseys a day. I still pay her 100 Rand a day. But now what is the labor cost per unit? It's now going to go down. It's now 50 Rand per unit. Because she is more effective. Okay? So can you see, by training your workers, making them more effective, meaning they make more products in a day or in a time than they used to, then it means your labor cost is going down. Can you see it's got nothing to do with, oh, I fired people. Ne? Your labor cost per unit doesn't go down because you fire people. Your labor cost per unit goes down because people work faster and more effectively. Okay, does that make sense to you? Okay, so let's quickly go look at this example. So they say, this is page 6, eh? They say, McCarthy Stores manufactures and sells soccer boots. The current financial year ends 30 June. McCarthy is worried about the decline in sales for 2025. He requested you as an internal auditor of the business to prepare calculations and reasons to support his findings. Okay, so now let's go look. Calculate the break-even point for the year 30 June. Now, let's quickly get that info. Page 7 then, which I apparently have all the pages except 7. So I'll do it on this. If you go to page 7, there they give me information. So with this information, I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to do it with you because it's your first exercise. Let's do the break-even point. So if I do the break-even point, now, what is my ratio or my format? It's going to be the total fixed cost over selling price per unit less variable cost per unit. Okay, so if I look there, what is my total fixed cost? Do they give it to me? They don't give it to you. What do they give you? They give you the per unit. Okay, can you see? This is per unit. You can say there it's per unit. Now, how will I get the total one? If I have the unit price, can you see they give me the units? So I produced 4,600 units at 55 Rand a unit. Okay, is everybody with me? Now what is my selling price per unit? There they give me, it's 194. And what is my variable a unit? It's 134. Okay, so what is the 46 times 55? Two, 5, 3. Okay, and this is going to be 60. So what's my break-even point? 421.6. Okay, now can I say to you this? If I have a break-even point, I always round off upwards. Why is that? Listen, I want to know how many products I need to produce to break even. So if I am making, what is this? Soccer boots, okay? But the soccer boots doesn't have holes for, what do you call, shoelaces. Can I sell those soccer boots? No. Can you see that 0.6? I can't sell it. I first need to finish it before I can sell it. So you're going to say this is 4217 boots. We need to produce 4217 pairs, and then I only start making a profit. Can you see? Yo, this is intense, ne? Can you see it's a high cost thing? Okay. Now they ask you, question 6, they ask me here, page 6. Isn't it fun having a teacher who's always dear mekaar? Always dear mekaar. Ah, there. So they say, compare and comment on the break-even point and the production level achieved by McCarthy stores over the last 2 years. Quote the relevant figures in your explanation. Now, if I look at this, I see this is 2025, ne? So now if I look at this here, I'm going to compare my production and my break-even. So I have calculated now the break-even is 4217. Okay, now I'm asking you. In 24, now can you see, so it didn't change. So you said this is 2025 and this is 2024. So now it says here, can you see the break-even point is 4050? And the number of units produced is 45. So I'm producing more than I need to break even. Did I make a profit or a loss? On how many units did I make a profit? 450. So you're going to say, in 2024, the business made profit on 450 units. Now this answer tells me that you made a comparison between the break-even and the production already. Okay. Now I want you to use the same format of sentence and do for me 25. Take the information you have and write this sentence for 2025. If I look at 25, can you see we are still making a profit? But can you see the amount of units I make a profit on is decreasing. Ne? So, what is the difference here? Here it was 450. What's the difference here? 3. Okay. The business made a profit on 383 units. Okay? And just to make sure that you get your marks, you say less units than 2024. Easy. So if I go to question 4, so remember from question 4 we only did the first part of the question. We didn't do the second part. So if we go to question 4, the second part of the question is that cool manufacturers. Yes. What about? Oh, I didn't see that. Thank you, my angel. Provide one reason. I'm at the wrong page. Okay. So now they say compare, quote the relevant. Oh, because I didn't turn the page. Okay. Provide one reason each for the change in the direct material and the direct labor. Now, I'm going to give you 2 reasons for each one of them, and you're going to use that positive or negative. Okay. If it increases or if it decreases. Okay. So, with direct material, you will always say, so in this case, what you will always talk about the supplier and the quality, or you can talk about wastage, meaning, okay, with direct labor, you can always talk about overtime, and you talk about training. Okay, so now let's go look. If I look at direct material here, can you see it increased? Okay, per unit. So now you choose what you want to say. You can say it increased because we changed to a more expensive supplier. Okay? Or you can say the price increased because we buy a better quality product now. Okay? Then it's not going to be more expensive. The direct material per unit increased because there were a lot of wastage. What does that mean? Wastage would be, this is now the boot. So you all know that a soccer boot needs to be cut out. The leather needs to be cut out and then sewn together. Okay? So can you see if the person who's cutting out the leather for the shoe makes a mistake, that he has to redo it, meaning he uses double the material that he was supposed to use. Does that make sense? Can you also see if the scissor was not a nice sharp scissor, he could have torn the leather and he also had to use it. And that all leads to wastage. Do you get what I'm saying? Okay? The easiest way to think of it is if I hire you today and I say go into the kitchen and bake muffins, but in your life you've never used the oven or nothing. So the first couple of muffins that you're going to bake is going to be burned, or it's going to be, you're going to forget to put the sugar in, or can you see then all that raw material would be wasted on the second batch, because you make one batch with the ingredients for 2 batches. So then the price of the raw material per unit is most going to increase. Does that make sense? Okay. So with the direct labor, if I look at the direct labor, I see it decreased. So please, You're not going to say, oh, because we fired workers. No. What are you going to say? You're going to say they worked less overtime. Workers went for training, and that means they are now more effective. Ne? Remember, with Bibi, what we did is I sent her for training. Now she knits 2 jerseys for 100 Rand instead of 1 jersey for 100 Rand. Okay, so